It's Thursday, crossover Thursday. Alex Clancy, Bo Brock, doing it a little bit differently today. Sosa Cremento's no longer with the podcast platform, but on to bigger and better things. And we've got a special guest that you're going to get 2 segments of from ESPN LA. But first, there's some things that Bo and I need to talk about. Alex Clancy, Bo Brock, Locked On Cardinals. Let's go, Bo!
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Cardinals. Follow him at Bob Brack. Follow me at Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZCards. Thank you to everybody who makes Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. Free and available on all platforms. No paywalls. Some live reads, but no paywalls. So you're welcome. Travis Rodgers from ESPN LA is going to join us the next 2 segments to talk Rams. And, we've talked about the Rams a lot already this year. It's kind of sickening that we have to talk about the Rams as much as we do in the different angles that we do with how things ended Sunday with the Cardinals now having a backdoor into playing the Rams at SoFi Stadium. And listen, there's a couple things we need to talk about before that. Vance Joseph is in the head coaching carousel, I guess, potentially getting an interview from Miami, according to some reports. DeAndre Hopkins is out Monday night, regardless of what a local radio guy said from his sources. And, there's there's some more hodgepodge stuff. Bo, first of all, Vance Joseph, should he take a head coaching job?
Well, yes. I mean, it's a bump in pay. It's not a lateral. It's a move up. It's another opportunity for Vance Joseph. And I think that Miami, it's one of the closest teams that has a coaching vacancy. But as far as if this isn't just the main reason you don't fire Cliff Kingsbury, I don't know what it is. Like, the Miami Dolphins have had back-to-back winning seasons. They fire their head coach, and then they want to hire a guy who failed the head coach and never even sniffed the record that Brian Flores had in the same position. Like, unless you have somebody in mind, unless like you've zeroed in on who's going to replace your head coach, I don't see any, especially with Flores as being the main example. Like, why would you move off of him when you don't have a better option in the waiting in the wings?
No, agreed. And like Vance, here's midway through the season, because coaches' salaries don't, hit the salary cap, whatever.
Right.
If he's an associate head coach, pay him like one. Like, if you want to keep him, give him an extension, maybe give him $1 million less per year than what you give him if you were the actual head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, and keep him. Like, you need stability with the team anywhere. And anytime you start over, look what happened with Hassan Reddick. Just as one little example, he played in 4 different defensive schemes his last year in college and his first 3 years in the NFL. And then, he finally popped when they moved into the right spot. But you need stability. And if you're going to keep Cliff, if you're going to extend Cliff, we can talk about that, ad nauseum later after the season. Yeah, I mean, I think they should be a package deal because it works well enough. But if he's going to take a head coaching job elsewhere, if I'm Michael Bidwell, I'm looking at this like, he's already coaching half the team. So if that's good with him and it's about the money, maybe meet him halfway.
Well, I think the only thing that's going to take Vance Joseph away from the Arizona Cardinals organization is a head coaching position. I mean, that's the only thing. I mean, you can't – he's hit the ceiling as far as where you can go as far as not being a head coach in an NFL organization. So it's good for the Arizona Cardinals. The thing that's going to be interesting is if Vance Joseph gets poached by an organization as a head coach, where do they go next? And you're right. I mean, Cliff Kingsbury and the Arizona Cardinals would not have had the success, shockingly, where we were 3 years ago without Vance Joseph. He's been great. He's been instrumental in their success, and that's why he's getting another opportunity. Wherever, if it's not Miami, wherever he goes, I hope he gets a chance with a quarterback, because he didn't have that chance in Denver.
Yeah,
the Vic Fangio. It's like you're sunk in this league unless you have a star quarterback under center. Also, Adrian Wilson, A-Dub, getting an opportunity to interview for the New York Giants GM position.
Good for him, finally.
So, he's done a lot of great work in the scouting department and working under Steve Keim.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, you look at the interesting part about this. So say Vance does leave, hypothetically speaking, gets head coaching job. This is the best time of year to get coordinators, overqualified coordinators that maybe it didn't work out. Because you're right. Vic Fangio is a defensive guy. He's had crapbox quarterbacks in perpetuity. They've had 0 good quarterbacks since Peyton Manning left. 0. And Peyton was noodle armed his last year anyways, and Brock Osweiler had to win them a couple games. They've had 0 quarterback play. And if you want to defend whoever they're putting under center, if you want to defend Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater or whatever, none of those guys are going to elevate a team to where they need to go to make the playoffs. It's the defense that's really the calling card there. That's what Vic Fangio is good at. But if you have Mike Zimmer, if he's going to be a coordinator somewhere, that's an upgrade from pretty much any coordinator that you have. It didn't work in Minnesota, but he's not going to be leading the charge. So it's just going to be a silly season. I don't know why Vance would leave unless it's for the perfect spot is what he said. So we'll see. DeAndre Hopkins, other news and notes before we get over to Travis Rodgers, because we're probably going to want to go long with him. DeAndre Hopkins out, status quo. And there are reports that he's not going to be back at all.
Yeah.
Rip the Band-Aid off. I feel like if there's an NFC Championship game appearance, we'll see. But you got to think, as we creep closer, and with the stud wide receiver from Alabama tearing his ACL in the national championship game reminds you, Klay Thompson in the finals reminding you, not only are you out for the rest of this year, most likely you're out for the majority of next year as well. So I wonder if they're keeping that in mind when DeAndre Hopkins, later in the season, is it worth having him on the field if he's only going to be at 40% with chance of bigger injuries?
Yeah, and Cliff Kingsbury kind of being a little coy with J.J. Watt, said he doesn't feel either way whether or not Watt could play Monday night. Also a little tidbit, and then this isn't breaking news. Cliff Kingsbury says that he's confident that Kyler Murray can play the best game of his career in his playoff debut. If that happens, that's just – and I'm starting, and I'll say it right now, as we're trending towards this game, my confidence level is building for the Arizona Cardinals. Whether or not I'm going to predict them to win or not, you'll have to figure it out. We'll make those full predictions come Monday. We've got a couple pods between now and then. But, let's see. But that's the latest news on the Arizona Cardinals before we get to Travis.
Yeah, Travis on the other side. First, I got to tell you about onlinegambling.com. So here's the thing. If you need help at all, putting your shekels here or there or everywhere or nowhere, onlinegambling.com is where you want to be. The Super Bowl's coming up. If you need some tips for some OGs, onlinegambling.com is where you want to be. Everybody needs help, and that's the thing. And there's a place that we trust here, and you should trust as well. Go to onlinegambling.com/NFL for all the latest gambling news, tips, and info to beat the odds and give you the edge throughout the playoffs. Remember, onlinegambling.com/NFL to make the most of this year's playoffs. All right, second segment, Locked On Cardinals, crossover Thursday, doing it a little differently today. Our boy from the Great White North, Sosa Kremenjas, is no longer with the Locked On Podcast Network. He's doing incredible things in various different avenues. So don't feel bad that he's gone. Be happy that he's on to bigger and better. That doesn't mean that you're going to be without some Rams love on this crossover Thursday in the Locked On Podcast Network. We are bringing in Travis Rodgers. Travis Rodgers has been all over 710, ESPN in LA. He's done the pre-half and post-game show for the Rams for a long time. And I think he knows a little bit about the Rams and Matthew Stafford's large head and huge quaff that he has under his helmet. Travis, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it, first off.
It is my pleasure, Alex. I'm excited. Look, there are a couple of things that I love to talk about. Football and hair might be the top two. So you've come to the right guy.
Yeah, Bo is kind of the guy Bo's the hair guy. My hairline is running away from my nose, and Bo seems to be running towards it. So he's the looks of the operation for sure. So I understand that part. So let me ask you this.
Pulling it back. I'm working with the best that I got. So
listen, dude, it's you and me versus Bo. So let me ask you right out the gate. Arizona Cardinals on your airwaves, LA Times, etc. Are they pretenders? Are they contenders? Have they ever been contenders in the eyes of the LA media?
I think they're contenders in the sense that they can mess it up for somebody. I don't think that they're contenders in the sense that they can win the Super Bowl. I think that that's the way that everybody's looked at the Cardinals this season here. You go back to early in the season when they played each other week 4, when the Cardinals beat the Rams, they took it to them and they were the better team that day. But it was kind of like, yeah, okay, cool, whatever. It's the first time the Cardinals had beaten Sean McVay. We'd seen the Cardinals play well before. We're going to need to see what happens once we get into double-digit weeks, once we get into a little bit of mileage on Kyler Murray. And I think what most people were thinking kind of came true. It came apart a little bit. He got banged up. He all of a sudden wasn't that MVP candidate that he was through the first half of the season. And I think people had it right. And it doesn't mean that it can't get weird from here moving forward. But, yeah, I think it's always been they're pretty good, but I don't think anybody looks at them the way they look at Tampa or Green Bay or Kansas City or something like that.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to disagree with that. I think what the Cardinals fans really want is them to kind of recapture where they were back in week 4, and that's going to be kind of a Herculean effort from the entire franchise come Monday night. And they've almost been viewed, and it's weird because it's only been a short time that obviously the Rams have been in LA, but they're almost like Cliff Kingsbury is Sean McVay and the Cardinals are the Rams' little brother right now. It's just they can't, they're out in the front yard playing hoops, and they just can't get that W over their big brother. They did once, but a lot of people are kind of brushing it off as a fluke, kind of, Travis.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that because the other games have gone, they've been pretty heavily Rams under Sean McVay, not necessarily under Cliff Kingsbury specifically, but since Sean McVay has come back to LA and they've played against the Rams, or I should say since they played against the Cardinals, they've won every one but that one game in game 4. So it's kind of like little brother threw one in from, the trash cans. And yeah, you won, but I'm going to need to see that shot again before I'm really buying it full time. They're good. And Kyler Murray's really scary. Yeah. He's one of those guys for the longest time, having done the Rams since they came back to LA. The guy in the division that has scared me the most year in and year out, that I don't care if they're playing well, which they usually did, or even if they're having a bit of a down season, was Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson was the guy that said, every time he drops back, I feel something bad's going to happen for the Rams. Kyler Murray kind of took that away from him this season. Kyler Murray's kind of the guy that every time he has that ball, I expect something bad to happen for the Rams because he can throw it, he can run it, he can do all those things that are really hard to defend. And every time he gets outside that edge, forget it. He's gone. He's, that's 10, 12, 15 yards, whatever it might be. So it's different in the sense that I think they're more dangerous than they have been in the past. But I remember saying it, and you guys probably can remember better than I can, when they were still the top seed in the NFC in like week 11 or 12. And it's like, yeah, okay, let's see. Like, it never felt like they were the team to beat in the NFC, even when they did have the best record. And when the Rams were going through the month of November and they couldn't beat anybody, and the Cardinals were playing pretty good football, and all of a sudden there was a little bit of a gap, I'd kind of put myself into that mode of, okay, the Rams are going to be a wild card team. They're going to have to go on the road, et cetera, et cetera. And we saw what happened from there at 4-5 for the Cardinals. The Rams got hot all over again, and they ended up winning the division. So kind of ended up, I think, exactly where a lot of people thought it would.
Travis Rodgers, 710 ESPN. Check him out, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., Monday through Friday. Man, you're all over. Rams pre- and post-game show. You were all things Rams. And listen, Bo was just completely triggered. He's got 2 older brothers. So that whole thing with the Sean McVay and Cliff thing, I know that got a little weird for me because I knew that. At Travis,
locked on therapy. I understand. I was the older brother, so I know how to torment the younger brother. I know how to make you might have knocked down the sweetest 3 in the backyard, but I'm going to make you feel like it was lucky. I know how to do that.
At Travis Rodgers on Twitter. How do you know somebody at Twitter? How the hell did you get the original? That's like Travis Rodgers at Gmail.
Yeah, I was early. I wasn't like day one, but I was, and it's funny. I joined because I was trying to make fun of Twitter. Millie would be like, what the hell is this? Like, why do I need to know why you're going to get a cup of coffee or whatever the joke was at the time? I'm like, I want to see what it is. And I just, type in your username. I just used my name and it came back. I'm like, all right, I'll take it. I got it on Instagram too. So I got really lucky.
Damn, man. All right, so one more question, then we can more overview stuff, and then we'll get into the actual game on Monday night, which is wild that the Cardinals are playing the Rams after how both those games ended. Like, it's still, I'm still not over how exactly that happened, but do you believe in Matthew Stafford?
Ask me on Tuesday.
No, I can't do that, Travis.
I've gone through a couple of different points in my relationship with Matthew Stafford. When they made the deal to get him, I was ecstatic because I believed, and I'll be honest, I did not watch 16 Detroit Lions games a year, but I saw enough of the Lions that every time I watched, and just through odd quirks of the schedule, the Rams played the Lions, I want to say 3 times in the previous 4 or 5 years. So we got to see him a little bit. He was really good. And it always felt like the reason the Lions sucked had absolutely nothing to do with Matthew Stafford, that he was kind of a victim of being lioned than anything else. He came over, looked pretty good for about 7-8 weeks. He looked really good. He was an MVP candidate and everything else. And then all of the things that the people I know that are Lion fans that said, wait, you just wait. It all happened. It happened all at once. And kind of came out of it a little bit in December. He played a little better, but threw 3 interceptions against Minnesota. They won anyway. He threw 2 interceptions against Baltimore and fumbled once, and they won anyway. And then we saw what happened. You know, he had that last game of the season that you just mentioned, Alex. Odell was open. If he puts that ball in the money, Odell walks into the end zone. That's a touchdown, and the Rams win one of the great games of the season, walk-off fashion, everything else. And Rams fans he underthrew that ball badly. I believe in him in the sense that I think he can make every throw. I'm a little worried in that he sometimes doesn't realize that's not a good throw to make. But having lived through Jared Goff the entire time, I'm very happy to have Matthew Stafford here.
I mean, that's pretty simple to say. I mean, anybody but Goff as far as around the NFL. And I say that with my co-host. I think he's the only guy that believes that Jared Goff is capable at playing the quarterback position, a starting quarterback position in the league. But, how have the Rams been able to overcome Matthew Stafford struggling down the stretch? Can the Arizona Cardinals, can they be the team to take advantage of it, just like the San Francisco 49ers? The path to victory for the Cardinals and what they need to look out for from this Rams team come Monday night. Travis Rodgers joins Alex and myself here on a crossover Thursday here on Locked On Cardinals. Rams fan, Cardinals fan, it doesn't matter who you are. If you buy gas, you need to know about this incredible app. I'm talking about Get Upside. Our listeners are making 25 cents every gallon of gas every time they fill up. Just download the free Get Upside app in the App Store, Google Play right now. Use the promo code TOUCHDOWN. Easy to remember, right? Get a bonus 25 cents per gallon on your first fill up. That's 50 cents per gallon. Cash back first time you pump up. Never pay full price at the pump anymore. Get cash back using Get Upside. Just download the app for free. Use the promo code TOUCHDOWN. Get that 50 cents per gallon cash back on your first tank. Some people who drive a lot, they're making upwards of $200, $300 a month. That's crazy. There's no catch. You get the cash back. It gets added right to your account. You can cash out anytime, your bank account, PayPal, e-gift card for your account. And you can also put it on an Amazon, other brand gift card. Just download for free the Get Upside app. Use the promo code TOUCHDOWN. Get that extra 25 cents per gallon. That's 50 cents per gallon cash back on your first tank. That's the promo code TOUCHDOWN, Alex.
Thank you, my quaffed friend. Bet Online is next. But Bet Online would like to wish you a happy new betting year as we continue our march to the playoffs and beyond. You know about betonline.ag. We've been talking about them for a long time now, months and months and months. BetOnline remains the number one spot for all the best sports wagering action in 2022. It stays the same. Go to the website or use your mobile device to receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit using promo code Locked On. Go to the website or use your mobile device. Say it with me now. 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit using promo code Locked On. Football, basketball, hockey, whatever. I mean, March Madness is 15 minutes away, it seems like. BetOnline is going to have you covered for that too. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, final segment here. Travis Rodgers, ESPN LA, at Travis Rodgers on Twitter, 10 to 1, Monday through Friday, ESPN. Are you guys at LA Live? Is that where ESPN LA is?
Yep.
Yeah, that's badass. Like, for those that haven't been to LA downtown, it's changed a lot since the Staples Center was built, and they built the thing next to it where American Idol was. That's all I remember. Nokia Theater. Is it still Nokia Theater?
Microsoft Theater.
And then they built, when ESPN LA was constructed less than 15 years ago, 10 years ago.
Yep.
Like, they built this massive when Wolfgang Puck shows up as a restaurant, you know it's the real deal. LA Live is awesome.
Too. If you're a sushi guy, there's Katsuya right down in LA Live too. Yeah.
What else do
right. Before Staples Center, you went down to downtown for two reasons. You went to buy jewelry or buy heroin. Those are the only two reasons you go downtown. So now that there's Lakers and Kings and Clippers and ESPN and restaurants, it's a much better place to be.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So getting to this game, Bo and I have talked a lot about just this team during the offseason, during the regular season. It's always, can you overcome the giants of the NFC West? And it was Seattle for a while with Russell Wilson and the Legion of Boom, but it's really Sean McVay. And Bo, we talked about that in the last segment. We're not going to get weird again, but Sean McVay has just had the Cardinals number, and the Cardinals have always played terribly against the Rams from the goose egg in London to the 30-0 with Josh Rosen in LA. Like, it's just, that's what Cardinals fans remember. Now, when they beat them at SoFi a handful of weeks ago, it was like a sweet mother, what has just happened? Because it could really open up this can of, this is what's possible in this world that wasn't before, and it's kind of come back to earth. What's the one thing that a couple things, I guess you could say, that the Rams need to do to avoid scoring less points than the Arizona Cardinals on Monday night?
Well, the Rams, the formula to beat the Rams has been pretty steady, and it feels like the team that cracked the code first, and then other teams have been able to duplicate it, assuming that you have the right personnel to do it, is you go back to Super Bowl, was it 52 or 53 when the Rams and the Patriots played in Atlanta a few years ago. And Bill Belichick, surprise, surprise, realized that if I put some huge guy right in the middle of what they do and get a push somewhere between the guard and the center and make the middle of that pocket bad. So I got to get these guys out of that spot. The whole thing kind of breaks down. The timing of it breaks down. The McVay offense, as sophisticated as it is, a lot of it is timing. A lot of it is being able to do things on schedule. And this isn't splitting the atom, but that's what it is. Get guys off schedule. And when teams have a really good push up front, and you can disrupt that offense, that's how you do it on that side of the ball, is get that. If you got push coming from the edge, Rams can't handle that. That's not something that they struggle with a whole bunch. You can have cover guys outside. Rams don't have a ton of problem with that. But when that push comes from the middle, that's when they have a little bit of trouble offensively. That's that side. The other side is, if you can run on them, it takes away what they're best at on defense. What they're best at on defense is Aaron Donald, right? Aaron Donald ruins it for everybody every week. But if you can run the ball and he has to play the run first, as opposed to just being able to go back and attack that quarterback, he becomes, as opposed to the Hall of Fame guy, he's just a really, really good guy. And all of a sudden, you don't have to deal with him. You don't have to deal with Von Miller. You don't have to deal with Leonard Floyd. All of these guys that can get up the field and get after the quarterback, they have to play that run first. Last week's game against San Francisco is a perfect example. The first half, the Niners couldn't run. They couldn't get it done, and the Rams had them on the run, 17-0 with under a minute to go in the first half. All of a sudden, the second half, Deebo Samuel starts to run. You just got to see Jimmy Garoppolo, quick, ball coming out fast. It's a totally different game. It's what the Niners had done to the Rams for the previous 5 times. When you can run and when you don't have Aaron Donald and Miller and Floyd rushing the passer, that thing is manageable. And if Arizona runs and Arizona gets pressure in the middle, I think that's the secret sauce. And it could be Kyler Murray. It doesn't have to be Connor or anybody else. It can be Murray. It's just somebody that's not sitting back there waiting for Aaron Donald to come get him. Yeah,
Kyler Murray, Chase Edmonds, James Conner, depending on who's available for the Cardinals in the backfield. Now, Matthew Stafford, 9 turnovers in his last 4 games. But the Rams, they've had success outside of the regular season finale. They've won all those games. How have they been able to overcome a pedestrian to below average Matthew Stafford?
Well, playing bad teams doesn't hurt. Minnesota is on their best day average, right? And then you look at Baltimore. When the Rams went into Baltimore in the second to last game of the season, it was Huntley and not Lamar Jackson. You know, they were playing with one hand tied behind their back. They didn't have their MVP quarterback. And the other thing is that Matthew Stafford is the guy that threw all those interceptions. He's also the guy that drove him down the field in about 2 minutes with time expiring and threw 2 passes to Odell Beckham Jr. that maybe 3 guys in the league could make. So you get a little bit of that push and pull with him. I think that's life with Matthew Stafford, that he's going to throw some interceptions. You just hope that he throws a few more good ones than bad ones. When he's good, there are not too many guys you'd trade him for, but he's only good some of the time. And I just don't know. I mean, I've thought a couple of different times, okay, he's got it figured out, and then boom. And there's a couple of times like, okay, he's never going to figure it out, and he looks great again. So I think that the weirdest part of all of this is exactly where the Rams were a year ago. They're going into the playoffs, and the entire question is their quarterback good enough? Is the quarterback good enough to win some of these games? Ultimately, Sean McVay and Les Snead decided that Jared Goff wasn't, but here we are again, and it's the exact same question at the exact same position.
Yeah, Jared Goff probably have these guys undefeated this year, you know, with how great he is. I mean, it's not even really close. Let me ask you this before we get to OBJ, because I want to get your initial reaction on that, because it seems like the Rams just do stuff that fans of other teams like, I wish they would go get that guy. Boom, Jalen Ramsey. I wish they'd go get that guy. Boom, Marcus Peters. Like, it was just like things just happen with the Rams, and they make it work, and they're going to be relegated to college football in 3 years when they have no draft picks. But like for now, it's really fun. Before that, is Sean McVay having too much control over the quarterback's thought process and not just letting them play? Because that's obviously the question. I'm sure you've talked about that a lot with Jared Goff, and I'm sure that Jared Goff was served well up to the last second of the 15 seconds where he was in his ear telling him what to do. All joking aside, Jared Goff has an absolute cannon. Okay, we know, we've seen him put up big numbers in Detroit, and all joking aside, I know that he's not as good as Matt Stafford, but are they being handicapped a little bit, probably a bad term, but with Sean McVay not letting them think for themselves?
Matt Stafford, what is this, his 12th year in the league? Something like that?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that Matthew Stafford is making decisions based exclusively on what Sean McVay is telling him to do. I think he's his own guy. I think he's been in this league a long time. He's played for a lot of different coaches. I think they have a pretty good collaboration. I don't think it's okay, this ball must go to this guy, 1 step, 2 step, 3 step, boom, throw it. I think the biggest difference between what Goff and what Stafford is, aside from just the experience I mentioned, is that it's much more collaborative. That Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford, I think, look at this collectively and decide what to do collectively. Whereas Jared Goff was more, hey, we need you to do this, and he was unable to do it. You know, that we can't. The problem with Goff, not to get too far off the map here, was it was the same mistakes every week. It was the same mistake every week, and it's just, I don't know about you guys, but it's like with your kids, right? You don't care if they make a bunch of mistakes, but can we just have it be a different thing each week? Like this week we're going to focus on picking the towel up off the ground. Next week we'll worry about taking out the trash. They never got past taking the towel off the ground. It's still a wet towel on the bathroom floor. Let's get that going. So he needed to move on to other things. No, I don't think that Sean McVay handicaps Matthew. Look, the Rams score points. The Rams move the ball. Most of the problems that occur are bad throws, bad decisions. I don't think it's bad scheme, bad design occasionally, but I think it's more just, I think I can get it in there, and turns out, no, you can't.
Yeah, and I think it, like you said back in a couple answers ago about how they've overcome Stafford and playing poor teams. You know, the Arizona Cardinals have thrived in winning the takeaway battle. And if he plays poorly, it's not going to go well for the Rams, and it could look a lot like Week 4. Getting to the defensive side of the football for LA, you know, the first time these teams matched up, it was Kyler Murray, it was James Conner. There's not going to be DeAndre Hopkins this week. No Hopkins-Ramsey battle, unfortunately. But, you know, the last time they were able to kind of fix their problems, and they took care of business against Kyler Murray, who it's like the Rams are his kryptonite. He's thrown the most interceptions against the Rams than any other team. He's been sacked the most by any other team, by the Rams, 18 times. Why have they had so much success? Because, you know, the wild card in this game come Monday night is if Kyler Murray turns it on God mode and takes over a game in prime time.
Yeah, it's a simple answer. It's Aaron Donald.
Yeah.
It's Aaron Donald. I've been super lucky to get to see him play for the last 6 years here in LA. And when he's going like he did in their second matchup, when he's getting pressure, when he's flushing guys out sooner than they want, I'm not talking design roles. I'm talking, I got to run for my life. And Aaron Donald, he might not be quite as fast as Kyler Murray, but it's close. And he's fast enough that Kyler Murray's running for his life. And there's just not a lot of guys that can be accurate in that situation. And the second you try to deal with Donald, whether it's with a double or with whatever scheme you want to put together to try to slow him down a little bit, well, there's Von Miller, there's Leonard Floyd. There are other guys. Greg Gaines in the middle for the Rams this year is kind of a guy that not a lot of people talk about. He's had a fantastic season. And then you got Jalen Ramsey, who just takes your best offensive, receiver and kind of erases him. It's a pretty good formula on defense. They're not going to light it up statistically necessarily, but when I got a guy that can get to the quarterback at will, when I got a guy that can erase your number one guy, the other 9 guys on the field just need to be okay. And I think that's where the success comes from. And then, you got Miller, you got Floyd. They re-signed Eric Weddle. I don't know what that does for them moving forward, but they're pretty thin back there. If you can get to Dante Dion, if you can get to David Long, if you can get to some of those guys, Taylor Rapp has been hobbled. Taylor Rapp's lousy in coverage. He hits guys, but he's not great in coverage. If you can get some favorable matchups there are opportunities, but it's really hard. Aaron Donald gets back there really, really quickly. He creates a lot of problems, and it's nice to have him on that team. That's for sure.
Jalen Ramsey, he's handsy. He doesn't get a whole lot of calls against him either. I mean, I don't know what it is. I don't know if he's grandfathered in to not getting PI calls or defensive holding calls. That dude is handsy, and he's obviously the best in the game still. Like, the crazy part about him is he's gotten better every year, and Marshawn Lattimore kind of plateaued. You thought that he was going to be the next one, and there's been other guys that have kind of gotten close, but he's reigned like, this is Darrelle Revis reigning on best corner in the league, right?
Yeah,
like year after year.
He's remarkable. He's big. Like that's the other thing that I think kind of gets unnoticed sometimes. He's a big dude, and not just a big dude for a corner. He's a big guy. He's 6'3" plus. He's strong, and he's really fast, and he's incredibly technically gifted and skilled. I have no idea what you're talking about with the calls.
Yeah, right.
Never noticed. But yeah, I mean, he's that guy. There's always one of those guys that it seems is the best at that. And you're right, Alex, that sometimes those guys are a year or two, but he's been around a long. Like you said, when all of a sudden we heard that he was unhappy in Jacksonville, it was okay. Whoever gets him is, and then the Nick turn around, he's here already. Great. That's they'd done Dante Fowler shortly before Jacksonville, so. Yeah, the Rams have been super bold when it comes to acquiring guys, and I don't, as good as Von Miller and OBJ and those guys have been, Ramsey's he's in a class of his own.
Well, yeah, in a class of his own also, because he's the only one to ever piss off AJ Green enough to do anything on the field. Like, I don't know, they're going to meet each other Monday night, so that should be fun. Dude, Travis Rodgers, at Travis Rodgers on Twitter, the original, ESPN LA, 10-1 Monday through Friday. Thank you so much for taking some time, man. So real quick prediction. We don't normally do predictions, but you could just tell us how much you think the Rams are going to win by, and we'll eat it, and we'll talk tomorrow.
Yeah, honestly, I the only game that I feel really comfortable about that I think I know who's going to win is Tampa and Philly. The other ones, they all feel pretty, I don't know. I mean, I think, put it this way, if both teams play their best, I think the Rams win. I think for the Cardinals to win the game, the Cardinals need to play really well and hope that the Rams make some mistakes along the way. I think there'll be a lot of offense. I'll go Rams 27-24.
You heard it here first. Travis Rodgers, at Travis Rodgers on Twitter, ESPN LA, around the Wolfgang Puck down in downtown LA. Travis, thanks so much, man. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals and Locked On Rams your first listen every day. Make your second listen Locked On Bets. Your boy Q, Lee Steinberg, they got all the betting action for you, everything daily, wherever you find your podcast. Bo and I will check you tomorrow.